Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Uncanny Media, the show. It's me, your good buddy Spider, your favorite podcast host from the old days to the new days. But not like, the New Day from WWE. They're probably better podcast hosts than I am. But of the other people that I used to be associated with, I'm the better choice. So welcome to another episode. This is unfortunately named. This is episode 67. Okay? I enunciated that particularly. 67, not episode 67, because I don't know what that's all about. It's 67. So, welcome. It's hot. It got real hot in the evening all of a sudden. It's been doing that so far this season. I don't know what the deal is with it. It's been... We didn't really get a spring, so to speak. I mean, if spring was all about rain and things, maybe, but I don't know. We didn't really get a spring per se as far as nice, slightly warmish weather with a little bit of wetness, just kind of like, oh, hey, it's nice. We got a lot of storms, and we've had a lot of heat. It's very hot right now here in Ohio. And it feels like it should be later in the summer than it is. But we're managing. We're making do. I'm a big sweaty man right now, and I'm dealing with it. I'm sure again that there are other people in like, oh, it's 105 in the shade here in Nevada right now. You got nothing, but in Ohio we're not used to this kind of thing this early. The wife put some of her plants outside because in the summer some of her plants live outside to get the summer heat and the light and all that kind of good stuff. And it's only May. It's the end of May. We're getting towards the end of May. And we're getting into June, which is typically summer vacation season for the kids. My daughter's got a fresh new haircut. She went out today and she got a bunch of new summer clothes. Because she is just growing like crazy. She is almost as tall as her mother. Her mother's in her 30s, and my daughter is 11. She's going to be 12, and she's almost as tall as her mom. She's going to be potentially as tall as I am, which is not tall as these things are reckoned. I'm average height. I'm about 5'9", but she's going to be at least that, I'm guessing. Which is, my family kind of comes and goes. The males in my family, for the most part, tend to be my height or taller. The ladies, they don't tend to be quite that tall, generally. But, who knows? This one might break the mold. This one might break the mold over here. So what are we talking about tonight? We have a lot of things to go over. There's a few big news things that are interesting to me. And don't mind me, I've been getting random... It could be seasonal allergies. I've never been, to my knowledge, prone to seasonal allergies. But lately, with all the pollen and everything that's in the air and the humidity, I've been getting sinus drainage just abruptly at the most random of times. It's not like when I was sick last year, when I was like sick for 6 months with some cold that would just not go away. This is just, I'll be hanging around, feeling fine, no big deal, and then all of a sudden I'll have a bunch of just phlegm and drainage in my throat, like making kind of difficult to swallow. And it's all just, it's got to be allergy related. It comes and it goes. It's not a cold, it's not a sickness, it's just a thing. So I don't know. So don't mind me if I start abruptly talking funny, having to swallow in the middle of the episode here. It's just been really random. But we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of news that's interesting to me and a few 100,000 people. We have local wildlife still doing their thing out there, getting themselves into trouble. And I want to also talk about paid promo services. Now, I'm not, this isn't an infomercial. I'm not going to be like, hey, let's all sign up for this. This is the greatest thing ever. I'm going to tell you my experience with paid promo services recently, because I'll get to that. Let's talk about some other things first. First, let's talk about video game news. If you're not into video game news, you can probably tune out for a little while, no big deal. But if you are, you might be interested in hearing about Bungie. Bungie is the company that created the Halo franchise. And they were a part of, at one point they were a part of Microsoft. Before that, Halo was a Microsoft Xbox exclusive game series. Alright? It might still be. I don't remember. But previous to that, they made a game called Marathon Durandal, which they might have made a previous game before that was just Marathon. But they started with PC games, and they moved on, and Halo was their biggest thing. Halo was their success story. They made it big with Halo, Halo 2, and Halo 3, and then their final game that they made was Halo Reach, before they moved on to other games, and then Microsoft bought the Halo franchise to keep making games, because it was a moneymaker, right? But Bungie made a new game franchise called Destiny. It's not new anymore. It was new at the time. Okay? I'm talking in the past tense here. After Halo, they made Destiny. And I was super hyped for Destiny. I was super excited. Because I loved the games that they'd done under the Halo moniker. I was a big fan, and I was like, this is going to be a great game. And the more they talked about it, I was a little bit apprehensive, but I was still supportive. I pre-ordered it. I played the beta. It was a limited beta, and then I got the main game. So Destiny is an online... It has to be played online because it's a multiplayer. Generally, you can play some of the story missions. Most of the story missions you can play single player, but if you want to play any of the extra content, any of the big stuff, you have to match make or have a group to play everything else. So I can only really play, if I'm playing by myself, I can only really play about half the game, including the DLCs and all that other kind of stuff, which is fine. No big deal. We're going to go back in time. Talk about the history. During the beta, you would join up with a squad of people and you would play a short level, and you would fight a boss, and that was that. And you know what? It was alright. I had fun doing it, but I was like, I don't know if I want to... I hope I can play these missions without people. Like, I hope I can play them by myself. And when the game released, It was kind of bare bones. There wasn't a lot to it. It seemed like there wasn't a lot of missions to do. Once you finished, that was about it. Unless you wanted to play PvP, which is game speak for player versus player. It's a multiplayer game mode for people who don't play games, who are where you play against other players. You don't play against computer enemies, you play against other players. And I don't really generally like that kind of play style anymore. I don't play a lot of the Call of Duty games. I didn't play Halo for its multiplayer. Cause I don't have those reflexes anymore. Modern games, especially on console, use a lot of aim assist, because apparently controllers are not as quick on the uptake as a mouse and keyboard. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that might have been true at the time. But technology has come to such a point that there's no reason that somebody with a controller without aim assist should be able to be that much worse than somebody with a mouse and keyboard. I don't believe it. I think everybody has accepted it as gospel nowadays just because that's how it was and that's how it is, but it's not really that way anymore. I would love to see some tests on this. But there's a ton of aim assist. The gameplay is slowed down. It's not as quick as it was. It's not really on reflexes. It's more on throwing the right amount of shots in the right place. And you can say maybe the skill has gotten better, but I don't know. I think it's debatable. I used to play Unreal Tournament back in the day against people on local servers and do really well. I was exceptionally good at Unreal Tournament. And that was the last time I was exceptionally good at a multiplayer game where you're against other people. I've never been good since, and so I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not going to say the game should adapt itself to my playstyle. I'm just going to say I wasn't good at it. But Destiny, once you did the story stuff, if you didn't want to play cooperative player missions, then you had to play PvP, and I didn't want to do that. Now, they added, eventually, downloadable content. They added a total of 4 expansions to the original Destiny. And with each one, they made some good points, and they made some bad points. With the first expansion, in order to improve your gear, you had to play the raid, which is you had to get a group together. It didn't matchmake you. You had to get a group of about 6 people, you and 5 others, to run through a series of challenges before a final boss. And each challenge had its own miniature boss. And you had to do various mechanics, like you had to stand on a certain platform for a certain amount of time while somebody else shot an orb and somebody else shot an enemy and did different things. And if you didn't coordinate it all very well, then you were doomed to failure. It was a little more forgiving in the first one, but it was still a pattern that they continued. They had another one in the base game, a raid, where you had to do similar things that I didn't play. But for the DLC, they changed the game fundamentally so that you could not improve your gear or improve your abilities without doing the raid and collecting certain materials, which was problematic. They reversed that with the next one. The next DLC, they fixed some things where you could actually improve yourself and do better without having to rely on that. So you didn't have to do the raiding to get better as a character, which was refreshing. It helped. I felt good about the franchise. The following DLC messed that up again. And then the last DLC opened it up so it was basically free-for-all, so you could be the most powerful you could be without having to do the raids. So it was very boomerang kind of stuff. After the final DLC, downloadable content, for people who aren't gamers, so you can keep up. After the final one for the original Destiny game, they then announced that they were not going to be supporting that game anymore in favor of Destiny 2. an entirely new game with extra story and with extra mechanics and all that other kind of stuff. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. The first game had such promise. It had such potential, and they kept boomeranging back and forth with this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, and it soured me on the whole franchise. So I didn't move on to the second one. They've kept the first one online. Like, you can still play it. The servers are up for it. You can play it to this day. I was just playing it a few minutes ago, to be honest, before this podcast. You can watch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/DMGRGN, if you want to watch my gaming videos, or on YouTube, Spider Does Things. All the videos end up there. But I've been replaying Destiny, the story missions lately. But Destiny 2, I've never played. They even made it free. They even made it on Microsoft Game Pass, and I refused. I was like, I don't want to be one of their player numbers because I'm so irritated with how they've presented themselves, how they've acted with the various game. Because they added in microtransactions, they added a bunch of different things that were not really pay to win, but it was cosmetic stuff, and it was unnecessary, in my opinion, and they just added more of that to the second one. And the second one, the more I heard from people playing it, the worse it seemed to get for me, and I just continued to refuse. So fast forward, because Destiny 2 came out 10 years ago. Okay. Recently, they decided that they were going to have one final content drop, and then the game is not going to be supported anymore, just like the original. Because they have another game that they've been doing, that they recently put out, which is a remake of Marathon, one of their first games, but the remake is not like the original. It's not a single-player shooter like the original was. It's a multiplayer battle royale kind of thing. Various multiplayer modes. Battle royale is one of them, and other things. But people don't like it. The total player count is very low. It's not a big deal. People aren't into it. But Bungie has decided to drop its support for Destiny 2 in favor of Marathon and other games supposedly that they have in the pipeline, which has made a lot of people very upset. Bungie as a company has gone through several different mutations. It started as its own company, of course, and then it got purchased by Microsoft to make Halo games, of course. Eventually that contract or whatever it was ran out, and they were independent again, and they said, oh yeah, we're going to do the things we want to do. And then they signed up with Activision. Activision is a big game publisher, been around a long time. They've had a lot of success with games, but they've also made some questionable business decisions. Bungie signed up with them, and apparently they blamed, after the fact, eventually, they blamed Activision for being very heavy-handed and wanting certain things and not letting them be creatively expressing themselves. So the quality dipped. Eventually, Bungie, that contract ran out, and they were free of Activision. They were independent once again. So what did they do next? They offered themselves to Sony, who does the Sony PlayStation. Sony purchased Destiny. A bunch of people got laid off. The original team for Destiny really isn't even there anymore from Bungie. The original Bungie team isn't even there. And Sony wanted them to make things to a certain standard, and Bungie didn't care for that, so they started making things for less than that and doing the bare minimum, and a bunch of money was lost, and then they made Marathon, and now Sony has had a hand in their layoffs and various downsizing of the company. And so now Bungie has announced that Destiny 2 is going to wind down. And I don't find this particularly surprising. It's how they've acted throughout their entire gaming life since leaving Halo. Since leaving the Halo franchise behind, Bungie has been problematic. I like Destiny 1. I still play it. But I still have problems with it that are never going to get fixed because they don't support the game anymore. But I like it. I didn't play 2 because I knew that things were going to be bad, and everything I've heard since has just been bad. I have not heard good things about Destiny 2, ever. And now it's being shut off. I mean, it's not being shut off. You're still going to be able to play it, but they're not going to add anything to it. They're not going to fix any more bugs. It's as of June of this year, Destiny 2 is done. Now, the player base is understandably frustrated. They've gone through 2 games of this behavior now. And they have started a petition that they want to save Destiny 2. Not only that, but they want to have a third game. They want Destiny 3. But Destiny 3, which was apparently rumored for the longest time, because Bungie was like, yeah, we're going to make a third Destiny game, blah, blah, blah. They apparently have not started work on it because they don't have any money. And Sony isn't providing them with any money. So it's a losing battle. But there is a petition out that has more signatures than players of Marathon, which is the current game that Bungie is focused on. Will it sway Sony? I don't think so. I don't think it will. It's an ongoing saga, though. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to end. I'm certain it's just going to be eventually within the next year. I think Bungie as a company is going to be finished. I think they're going to be shut down. I think Sony's going to have their fill of it and just reassign anybody that has any talent to other games, and that's going to be the end of it. And Bungie is going to be no more. It's very doom and gloom, but that's what I see happening. And it's very unfortunate. I like the Halo franchise. There were parts of that were problematic, but not too bad. And I liked the first Destiny game, despite all of its issues. But Bungie did not have the attitude that... They had a very childish attitude. They encouraged certain types of multiplayer gameplay that was unsportsmanlike. They encouraged various other things, and they've just never been... They've never grown up. They're like the people who played games in their 20s, and they wanted to make games, and they did, but they've never matured, unfortunately. But that's Bungie, which is it's very unfortunate to see a game company like that just drive itself into the dirt when it could have been avoided. On to other things. The continuing saga of the local wildlife. I've talked about these people before. I don't use names because I'm not trying to publicly shame anybody, despite the fact that some of these people could probably use some humility. The local wildlife, as a reminder, if you haven't been paying attention, are people in my local area, the county, mostly the town, but also the county, because some of these people don't even live in this city. But they're in the county who have complaints for various reasons. Some of them are legitimate. I'll say that. I'm not going to say that they don't have some legitimate gripes, but a lot of it is just, hey, I got pulled over 6 years ago and I had to pay a fine and I'm still mad about it, so the city obviously is corrupt and blah, 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 and things like that. There's a lot of that going on. Or, I was not a very good parent and the city took my kids away and I had to fight to get them back and now I'm a better parent, but I'm still mad about it, so I'm going to be a beacon for all parents that lost their kids. And even though initially when you lost them the first time you were not that great, you've probably improved now, but at the time it was probably justified. But anyway, I talked about the leader, like a de facto leader of this group. He's got a Facebook page talking about that details all the corruption in the local city and things like that. And this is just a small town in Ohio. There's not much going on here. Yeah, I have problems with it too, but I don't think it's to the level that this dude is complaining about. So I said that he'd been making, the way he'd been talking, he was talking like, oh, I'm a Second Amendment, blah, 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 and we're going to go and we're going to show off our guns and show them we mean business. And to me, that sounded threatening, right? Well, the city felt the same way. So they told the guy, the next time he went to a city council meeting, which, by the way, he doesn't even live in the city. He lives in a nearby city, a nearby town, okay? He doesn't live here anymore. He used to live here, but he doesn't. And he still shows up to the city council meetings, because they're open to the public, as if he lives here. And he raises a fuss, and he makes a big deal, and he argues and shouts and whatever. Well, because he'd been saying things that sounded threatening about guns and whatnot, they threw him out of the meeting. They said, no, you can't be here. And he got belligerent. He persisted. He kept making moves like he was going to go on in. And they said, all right, well, that's fine. You're going to get arrested. And his big deal is he says that because the city council building is a, quote, public forum, it means he's allowed there whenever he wants. And that's not how that kind of stuff works. Okay? Yes, it's a public building for public service, but it doesn't mean that any random person could just go in and wander around and go wherever they want at any point, because there's sensitive information in there. There's people's private information in there and things like that. You don't work there, you don't live there. There's no reason that you should be just allowed to wander around a local government building just because, oh, well, we're the people who vote and it's our building, la la la. It's not how that works, okay? But that's how he feels. And so he pushed the issue and they arrested him. They let him out. They let him post bond. It wasn't that much. It was a criminal trespass. And he's mad about it and he's making more threats. And today was his hearing, his pretrial hearing about that. And it looks like he probably mouthed off and made a big deal about it, because they're going to have a continued hearing at the beginning of next month. The hearing isn't concluded, which means probably it was interrupted because he was probably throwing a fit and being belligerent and being contempt of court. And I assume that there's going to be more charges. I bet there's going to be more charges. And he's going to say that it's corruption and that he's being unfairly targeted and blah, 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 despite the fact that he has threatened the city council multiple times in multiple ways. And he always says, oh, it's not a threat, it's a promise. Well, that doesn't make it not a threat. It's not what you say, it's how you're saying it. And I foresee he's going to have issues. I foresee he's going to be in more trouble. And he's got his various hangers-on and the other people who follow his page from, again, outside of the town, in other places. They're all fired up, and they want to have cameras in the courtroom and this and that, and we think it's a travesty. And I think the whole bunch of them are going to get charged with something soon. And it's unfortunate, because they do have some legitimate gripes. But because they've gone about it the wrong way, they're just getting themselves in trouble. And they're making themselves look like they're just troublemakers and that they don't have anything legitimate to say, which is very unfortunate. I could sympathize more if the county was like, hey, we're going to send the police in with SWAT outfits just to take you out for fun because you're mouthing off to us. I could see that. That's abuse of power, right? That's exactly the kind of thing that Second Amendment stuff was written for. But this is supposed to be all talk. It's supposed to be all things that people can talk about and talk through. And instead of being productive with this, you're threatening and you're talking about bringing your guns to show you mean business. And how is anybody supposed to take that? That makes it not a Second Amendment issue, and that makes it a terrorism issue. Right? You're terrorizing. You're making threats. You can say all you want that I'm not making threats. I'm just saying that we have every right because it's an open carry state. And even if it is, that doesn't mean you're going to just go out of your way to say, hey, we're going to carry our guns to City Hall and then we're going to mean business. Because the language you're using isn't conducive to just going there and demonstrating your Second Amendment rights. Instead, it's showing that you want to show them that you have guns and that you aren't afraid to use them. And that's the problem. That's when civil discourse falls apart. And that's why they're on you about it. And these people don't get it. They just don't understand. I don't know. I don't know why this is so difficult for some folks. I just don't get it. People are just belligerent for no particular reason. But we're going to keep following that. We're going to keep seeing what happens. I foresee at the next hearing that this guy is going to have some extra charges tacked on. And he's going to be mad. He's going to throw a fit. And he's going to make it worse for himself. And I hope he doesn't go all the way to the point where they tell him he's got to give up his kids. Because he's a single parent. And he's acting this way, and he's putting them in danger, is what he's doing. And it's a shame. It is 100% a shame. But let's get on to something else. I'm going to keep updating that as we see, right? I'm going to keep an eye on it. But let's go on to something else. Promotional services. Now, this is not an endorsement section, okay? I'm not going to go in here and I'm not being paid by any of these people that I'm talking about. I'm not making an endorsement in a way that I'm going to encourage you to use different services. I'm just putting the information out there for your info. As part of my music career, I've tried over the years to do various social media and things to drive up interest in my music, and I've had mixed results. Most of the time, not a lot happens. Most of the time, I can't get even my close friends to pay attention to the music I've made, much less random people on social media. Now, the thought occurred to me not long ago that maybe the music I'm making, maybe it sucks. Bear with me. I'm not getting into a downer like, oh, I feel so bad. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go through my whole thinking process here. Maybe the music I'm making sucks. And by extension, because the music that I make is based off of my musical taste, maybe my musical taste sucks. Maybe everything that I enjoy listening to is awful. And because I base my music off of that, it's by extension awful. And that's why people don't listen to it. But I don't believe that, because I have had many times over the years where I've made people playlists and CDs and mixtapes and things of various music that I enjoy listening to, and everybody has said, hey, this is awesome, this is great. I've informed a lot of people's musical tastes to this day. Now, people could have been lying to me, of course, but I don't think in every single case. I think I have pretty good musical taste for the most part. And because I make music that I like to listen to, I think the music I make is not that bad. It could still suck, and I'm just blind to the fact that I make terrible music. But I like to listen to it. So maybe somebody else out there likes to listen to it. But because of that, it's been difficult to get large quantities of people to actually give my music a chance. And it's not like the old days. I know the old days where you try to get a song on the radio, you try to get a record label deal, and then you'd make it big. Nowadays, it's like you've got SoundCloud and Spotify and all these places. You can put your music up yourself, which I do. I go through a service called TuneCore, which distributes my music across the internet. It's on Apple, it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's on Spotify. It's on Deezer, it's on Tidal, it's on Kobos, it's on everywhere. Wherever you find music, you can find my music. Spider in the Hall, one word. Spider in the Hall, one word. Okay? Look it up. So it's super easy for an independent, non-labeled, non-famous musician to get their music out to the masses. The difficult part is getting the masses to actually listen. Now, Spotify particularly is the big music platform right now because streaming is what it is. And Spotify has... its algorithm is all based on its playlists. The more playlists that your song is added to, the more people will listen to it, and the more Spotify is like, okay, people are paying attention to you, so we want to help push you. So they base all of that on playlists and various things. Previously, you had to hope for the best. You had to petition various people who held the reins on playlists. You had to be like, hey, can you please play my song? And if they didn't like it, they wouldn't play it. Nowadays, you can pitch to multiple playlists on your own and have a general amount of success. But the best way to do it is to have a service where somebody does the pitching for you because they have the time and the money and they have the people, and they will constantly pitch your stuff to various playlists. There are a lot of people offering to do that online. You have to be careful, though, because there are a large portion of people out there who have these playlist pitching companies, but they will use AI and they will use bot accounts. Bot accounts are fake. They're just a bunch of AI robots subscribing to your music and everything. And Spotify is set up to notice huge spikes in playlist activity because of bots, because it's been a common thing for a few years now. So they will shut it down. They will actually take your music and take it off of their platform if they think you've been using bots to boost your plays, because that makes you money. You get royalties and things. And they don't want you making money that way, because then in their mind you're stealing money if you're using it through AI and fraudulent bots, right? Which is understandable. So there are companies out there that are legitimate, that they're like, yeah, we pitch to actual playlists, we pitch to advertising, we do different things to help get you plays and whatnot. We can't guarantee you a total number of plays, but we will guarantee you that you will get some plays because some people on these playlists are going to hear you. There's multiple services that do that, and I've been through a few. I'm going to talk about the ones that I've used. I'm not going to talk about the ones I haven't used, because I haven't used them, and I don't know what they're like. Because generally I don't pay for plays. I don't pay just to have my music played. I will pay to have my music pitched to playlists, which will then allow organic listeners just to be like, okay, well, I'm listening to this playlist. Hey, let's see what's on here. And they'll hear my music naturally. I will do that because that's fair play. I started with a service called Playlist Hub. And initially, what they would do is you would submit a track or two or three or however many you had. I would usually submit a one track at a time, and it would have a cost to it. It'd be like however much money. You would submit the track, and then they would pitch it to playlists. They would listen to the track and then pitch it to playlists that they thought would fit the track sound and would give you the most obvious boost to your listeners. Because if people like other tracks that sound like your track, then they're more likely to like your track, right? So I submit a track to them. I got a few extra listeners, a few extra plays, and I was like, all right, well, that's cool. And then it just didn't go anywhere. It just kind of was like, okay, it hit a plateau, and that was it. I was going to use them again, but then they changed their model in where they, instead of just pitching your track, now they personally try to curate the track. They listen to it and they said, oh, well, we think this will go here, this will go here. But you have to approach things manually. Like, you have to decide, I want you to pitch my track to this playlist. I want you to pitch my track to this playlist. Instead of it being automatically, you have to do more of the work. And the initial plays I'd gotten had not been dramatic enough for me to be optimistic that that was going to work. So I pulled out of that. I moved on to another service called GPM Music Group, who said that they would get you plays. They had all these advertisements like, oh, we went from 10,000 to 1,000,000 plays. And I was like, I don't have anywhere near 10,000 on my leading track. But if you make any sort of percentage difference like that, for me, then that might be worth doing. So I put a track up there. They send it to their playlist. And they say that they listen to your track so they can pitch it to the correct playlist. I pitched them a metal track that was very solid metal, right? And the most popular playlist that they put it to was for psychedelic rock, like Pink Floyd, Yes, and Tool. And the song doesn't sound like any of those things. And they sent it to that, and then I tried their service twice. And the second round, they sent it to some metal-themed playlists. And it didn't really go very far. I don't know if they just didn't give it the push that I felt it deserved for the pay that I was providing for them, or if people just thought the song sucked, which is always possible. Like I said, I sometimes wonder if maybe my music just sucks. But in any event, paying them to pitch my music didn't go anywhere. I ended up with a net positive of maybe 4 new listeners, new regular listeners on Spotify. I went from 52 to 56, something like that. And so I was like, nah, I'm not going to use it. So I went online and I looked around and was like, there's got to be somebody. I'm going to try one more before I give up completely. Because I'm not going to keep throwing money at these different playlist services if they're not, for one, going to even listen to the music that I'm providing for them to pitch them to the appropriate playlist. And two, if they're not going to bother to actually push the track in any meaningful way after it's been accepted. You have to, if I'm paying you to promote my music, you have to promote my music. I'm not going to pay you otherwise. So I tried one more. And this is called Berry Loons. Berry as in a berry, like a strawberry or a blackberry. Berry, and loons as in a loon. Loon. Like you're crazy. Berry Loons. Now, I saw an advertisement for them, okay? I went to their website. Their rates were quite low compared to everybody else. And they promised a vast number of plays. Again, organically, not bot-driven, above what everybody else was offering. I was like, this sounds a little suspicious, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I paid for promotion. A day goes by. I look on their Facebook page, and they have less than 200 followers. They have 2 reviews, and both of them say it's a scam. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? It wasn't a lot of money compared to the other people I was using. But how's this going to pan out? They promised 24-hour results. So I waited a little bit more, and then I checked my Spotify, and I noticed that, my goodness, I am getting a vast amount of plays. And since then, my plays have gone up dramatically. Not in a way that looks like it's bots. It looks like it's organic. There's people listening. But I've gotten 1,000% more results from this little small-time company with almost no followers on Facebook and 2 bad reviews. I've had better results from them compared to both of the previous services. And so I added another track. I had them promote a second one, and that one is gaining traction now as well. My plays have gone up. My listeners have gone up. It's astounding the difference that these people have made for me as opposed to the other 2 for less money. So if you, as an artist, an independent artist with no record label, are looking for a way to promote your music on Spotify, then I'm using Berry Loons, Berry Loons. Berry Loons. Look them up. I think they're decent. I gave them a positive review because I'm getting better results from them than both GPM Music Group and Playlist Hub. Now, there's other people out there that you could try that I have not. There's Imperium Network. I've seen them advertised. There's a few different other groups. But I'm using Berry Loons, and they seem to be successful so far. It's the most plays I've been able to wrangle that are organic, that aren't bots. So, and that's a thing. It's difficult for somebody who's not connected with the big players to be able to get their product out there. At some point, you have to pay an advertiser or somebody to do the push for you. And I've done that not only with my music, but also with my YouTube channel. I was able to get in touch with, and I'm not going to say who that is, who I'm using for that, because it's kind of a trade secret. I'm not going to say who I'm using to push my YouTube channel because I know somebody else who might be listening might jump on that and then decide, oh, that's what I want to do. And they think they're my competition and they're going to try to be better than me at everything. And I'm not going to give them the satisfaction. But I'm using somebody to promote my YouTube videos, and it has been immensely successful. It's been so successful, and it's really gotten to me where I need to be. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes, even if you have your own business doing this kind of stuff, there's another person who's got a side business that can help. Ow, this cat just clawed my leg. Dang it. Why would it do that? Anyway. To round this all out, let's address the numbers in the room. This episode is episode 67. I don't know what the big deal is about 6-7. It's a thing among the kids, I guess. I don't know what the whole deal is. I looked it up. I looked it up on the internet to see where does it come from? What did it originate with? And apparently it's just some random thing. It doesn't have a clear-cut origin story. It's just something that apparently kids like to say 6-7 really loud and disruptive, and it doesn't have any point to it. If you out there have an interesting origin story for 6-7 and you would like to tell me about it, I'd love to hear it. Even if it's not particularly true, it might be funny. Send it to me, and I'll read it on the air here on the next episode, and I'll say, these are the tales of 6 and 7. Because I don't know. Various different internet memes and things, I can usually look up and be like, okay, I get where they got that. Like the Knuckles thing, this is the way. They got that from Black Panther, and they threw Knuckles in there for some reason, whatever. The various memes, the cat and the shouting girl, you know, that kind of stuff. But, I don't know. The 6-7 thing I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know if anybody gets it. I don't think even the kids themselves get it. I think it's just some random thing to say, and because they say it and it confuses people, it makes them happy and they laugh about it. Thankfully, my daughter is not in tune with all of these various internet things like that. She goes online to talk to a friend, and that's about it. It's somebody that I know because she's a friend of the family. And she does educational things and she watches some videos, but she doesn't have any idea what the 6-7 thing is. She doesn't know what these various meme things are, and I'm grateful for that, because if she started just doing this kind of stuff, I'd be like, what does that even mean? And if she can't explain it to me, I think I'd go crazy. I think I'd go crazy. But that's about it I've got. That's all I've got. I talked about Bungie, which is the big news. I talked about the local wildlife getting themselves in trouble with the law. I talked about the 6-7. And there's not much more to talk about, to be perfectly honest. So, we're getting close to the end here. What do you think we're going to talk about next week? I don't know. I have no idea. If you have any 6-7 stories, then maybe you'll tell me about them and we'll talk about that. Otherwise, I don't know. I haven't been watching some various wrestling stuff. I haven't been watching as much of that, so I don't have new stuff to talk about that since Backlash. There's some AEW things I guess we could talk about, but I don't watch that, so I've only seen clips. And it's been kind of okie dokie. I hear that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is tanking. And maybe we'll talk about that next week. I haven't watched that either. I did watch the entirety of 1 through 6 episodes with my daughter so that she could finally watch the trilogies that I know of before the new ones that were kind of garbage. And even the 1, 2, 3 aren't that great, but 4, 5, and 6, fantastic nostalgic work. Now she's watching the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. We just watched the second one that had the cliffhanger with the Kraken and all that. We're going to watch the third one probably in a few days. So she's getting into some of the movies that I watched growing up. Eventually we'll get to things like Jurassic Park. I think she can handle it, but she is 11 going on 12. And we're trying to limit the scary things until she's ready for it. But I think she can manage. After the Pirates movies, I think she's ready for Jurassic Park. We'll see how it goes. But that's it. That's all I've got. I think I'm going to turn in for the night, have some food, and I rambled a lot tonight. This was an all-over-the-place kind of just unfocused, whatever it was, episode. But thank you for listening anyway. I appreciate it. We've had massive listener numbers on this podcast over the last couple weeks, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so humbled by. Thank you so much. Until next time, have a good night.